At UsedPhotoPro, we understand that it can be a little overwhelming trying to figure out what gear to get into when you first started getting into photography. So in this video, we're going to break down 2 paths you can take, either analog or digital, pros and cons of each one, and what might be the best fit for you. My name is Emery. I am a sales associate at UsedPhotoPro and a film photography extraordinaire. So just to start things off, film is a physical format. So like vinyl, because it is a physical format and is recorded on a physical format, you have a few more things you're going to add to the image that makes it a little bit more true to what the scene actually is. And as you choose your film stocks, you can choose what kind of color balances you would like to use, which essentially just means how does the film look. So another thing to consider when shooting film photography or even choosing the analog path as you start is the fact that your gear is going to be a little limited on how much energy they actually use or how many batteries you put into them. You're only powering typically a light meter. And the fact is your film gets wet when you develop it. So if you get caught out in the rain, your gear is going to handle a little bit better because you're not going to have to worry about frying the inside of your camera. And really, like I said, film gets wet when it gets developed. If it gets a little wet, you're not going to ruin it. So a few limitations you should be aware of when shooting film photography is that when you choose a film cartridge, you're typically limited to a set number of exposures. On a modern day cartridge, you're usually looking at about 24 to 36 exposures per roll. Now that isn't necessarily a bad thing, it's just a limitation on how many images you can shoot. So you need to take your time and compose as correctly as you think you need to. But another thing, your ISO, your film sensitivity, is usually set on whatever film stock you choose. So you can't change your lighting conditions, or you can't really change the way your film is sensitive mid-roll. You're going to have to kind of deal with it. Something to remember when you're shooting is the fact is your film is light sensitive. So if you accidentally open up the back of your camera, you could ruin an entire roll of images. So until you shoot that entire roll, keep it safe, and until you develop it, keep it dark. So why would you choose digital photography over analog and film photography? There's a few reasons. Digital photography is much newer, technologies are evolving almost every single day, and they're a little bit more friendly to the new photographer. For example, when you shoot on a digital camera, you're typically using a memory card. When you use a memory card, you basically have, as long as the memory card allows you, an infinite amount of exposures you can put on the camera. And it's much more small, so you don't have to carry around rolls of film everywhere you go and clank around. One of the biggest reasons to choose digital photography is the instant gratification of taking your image and seeing it in real time versus having to wait for it to be developed. That is probably the reason that a lot of photographers would choose digital over analog. Instant gratification, serotonin going off in the brain. You can see your image and make adjustments as you shoot, but also quick succession of shooting. Your frame rate is so much higher typically than analog and film photography. So people who like to shoot sports or shoot shows and things like that will typically go for a digital camera. Frame rate, serotonin. As impressive as digital cameras are, they too have their limitations. One limitation would be using post-production software to edit and enhance your photos. While it's not completely necessary to use the post-production software, it is one of the main attractions to shooting digital photographs, and there can be quite the learning curve. When out shooting in the field, you also have to consider the fact that your digital camera may not be as weather-friendly as your film and analog counterparts, and your shooting experience is going to be reliant heavily on your battery life and how many batteries you're willing to carry with you. While there's no right answer or correct camera to choose from, whether you choose analog or digital is up to you. If you were to choose analog, you're driving more towards the core of photography based solely on manual exposure. Or if you go towards digital, you're more likely to learn more about the flexibility of photography, get gigs, and shoot really to your heart's content. As one of the largest used camera stores in the country, our inventory is subject to change every single day. When you're ready to start your photographic journey, you can come in and see me or visit UsedPhotoPro.com. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara.